Welcome back for another installment of our weekly Q&A live. Jennifer, always great to be here with you.
Always happy to be here.
All right, why don't we go ahead and jump in with the first question of the day.
All right, so we picked the top 3 most asked questions for the week in the office. Let's go ahead with number 1. And the first one is, what is anterior head syndrome and how does it affect my health?
Yeah, so this is kind of a complex one because it's a lot deeper than most people think that it is. And so when we think of what anterior head syndrome is, if we look at somebody from the side, it's where that head travels forward over those shoulders. Other people have referred to it as forward head posture or that slouching position, or which creates kind of that hunchback, that dowager's hump in that upper thoracic spine. And it's not just an unsightly thing. It actually has a much more profound influence on our health than most people realize. What's really important to understand about it is if we go back, how that was created, where our anterior head syndrome first came from. We're actually born into flexion. So the reason why we're born into flexion is because our frontal lobe inhibits our flexors, and essentially we're born with an underdeveloped frontal lobe. And so we're born in this fetal position where we're in that rounded position. And then as we develop and evolve, we develop and evolve into more of that upright position. And I've actually had 2 re-exams this week that were really fascinating because when we looked at their anterior head syndrome, because we measure what the effective head weight is based on how far that head translates forward. They were both right around 60 pounds. So normally your head weighs about 12 pounds or so, and their head traveled so far forward that that lever arm created an effective head weight of about 60 pounds. And after we started adjusting them, after 12 visits, we do re-exams every 12 visits. After 12 visits of doing that, one of them improved by about 33%. The other one improved by about 66% in how far that head was traveled forward. And we didn't do any exercises for bringing the head back. So how did chiropractic care bring that head back from here all the way back to here in a matter of a dozen or so visits? And it's because what the adjustment does is the adjustment fires into that frontal lobe. So it creates about 30% more activation of the frontal lobe with a chiropractic adjustment. So when the flexors are naturally in this position, so we're naturally here, and our frontal lobe inhibits that, meaning it shuts off our flexor tone, which allows us to be upright. So just by doing a very specific corrective chiropractic adjustment, it fires into that frontal lobe and that naturally shuts off or inhibits the flexors, which allows those shoulders and head to pull back over and create more of that upright position. And so how this affects the human body, when your body is in that, first of all, whatever creates this, whatever is shut off to allow for this to happen, is an issue that needs to be corrected in and of itself. So you put lots of increased stress and pressure on the discs and the anterior structures of the vertebrae. You get increased acceleration of degeneration due to something known as Wolff's Law. You also get shutting off of your airways, so you're not able to breathe with the level of efficiency that you would be if the head was over the shoulders. You also have decreased lung capacity. It's increased stress response because when your head is forward like this, that's a stressful position for the body to be in. So you end up dipping into more sympathetic dominance as opposed to being in that parasympathetic zone. And the stress response is increased in the body, and you're using a lot more energy to hold yourself upright in gravity than you normally would be if the head was over the shoulders. So yes, it looks terrible when your head is forward like that and you have that significant anterior head syndrome. But more than that, it has a dramatic influence over your health.
It's actually great that you mentioned that because looking back now, going back to my nursing, being a nursing student, Looking back, I was thinking when I was doing a lot of studying and I'm always in this position over my computer or studying a lot, I noticed that my health in general was not the greatest. Some days were good, some days were bad. I was wondering if being in that position for long periods of time affected my health.
Yeah, it absolutely can. I mean, anytime we look at overall health, it's going to be multifactorial. So it could have been the stress. It could have been maybe the lack of sleep. It could have been the lack of fresh air. It could have been, not eating real well because you were spending all your time studying. So there are a combination of factors there, but without a shadow of a doubt, there's absolutely zero question that spending too much time with that head in that anterior position, cutting off the airways, putting excess stress on the neuromechanical structures in the upper neck, and shutting off that brain activity is absolutely going to play a factor in all this as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we also tell our patients, our current patients in the office who are currently working from home, they're in front of their computers a lot more than ever, to move, do like movements around the house or in between breaks, and just move and avoid being in this position for long periods of time, because that's when we start to notice that their stress levels go up and their health are not in the best in their lives.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, number one, we have to maximize the workstation to make sure that we're not looking down all the time, that we're looking straight ahead. Then, like you said, move on a regular basis. So if you look at the Pomodoro effect, that's where you look at like I believe it was done where it was like every 25 minutes you take a 5-minute break, or every 53 minutes you take a 7-minute break. The numbers don't really matter, but basically it was do a lot of focused work. Cal Newport, I think, talks about this deep work. So be real focused on doing deep work for a period of time, then get up, move, stretch, activate your frontal lobe, and then get back at it again. And even with taking those breaks, it's going to maximize your body's ability to focus and concentrate and get stuff done.
All right, sounds good. Those are really great points, and hopefully those people working from home got a lot out of that. If you have questions about this certain topic, this certain question, just drop it in the comment section, or you can also message us directly. So we're going to move forward to our next question of the week. This one is about stretching. And these are for people who love to do stretches, yoga, Pilates. And we got this question the other day, and she said, do I need to stretch more or a lot?
Yeah, I've gotten that a lot. Stretching in healthcare, in the health sciences aspect of healthcare, like the physical sciences, like physical therapy, massage, Pilates, yoga, a lot of these types of things, even a lot of like orthopedists, usually the answer to everything is stretch. Like just stretch more. If your back is hurting, you need to stretch. If your neck is hurting, you stretch. If your hips are hurting, you stretch. And it's just everything is stretch, 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 stretch. And it's funny because I've had, there are 2 patients that I'm thinking of off the top of my head. Both of them are females. This could apply to males as well, but males tend to be tighter than women when it comes to flexibility and range of motion. And both of them were having pretty significant low back pain. And they just kept saying, yeah, I just keep stretching and everyone tells me to stretch and, it's just not getting any better. And I said, well, let me see your range of motion. And so we checked their range of motion and I just looked at them right in the eye. I go, stop stretching. And they were like, what? No one's ever told me to stop stretching. I've never heard that before. I go, stop stretching. And I go, you already have plenty of flexibility. I'm like, you could lay on your back and bring your knee to your nose. You can bend down and touch your knees, with your legs straight. You could basically touch your head and fold forward in half. Like, you're not in pain because of a lack of flexibility. It's a lack of alignment and it's a lack of strength and stability. So I was like, you need to stop stretching, and I want you to focus all of your energy on getting stronger. That's it. That's all I want you to think about, is just get strong. Stop trying to increase your range of motion, because what happens is if you have two of these opposing things, opposing ideas. You have mobility or flexibility, and you have stability. And what happens is the more flexible you become, usually the less stability you have. And the less range of motion you have, the more stable the joint is. And so that's where like these gymnasts are just freaks of nature, because they have incredible flexibility and incredible levels of strength and stability at the same time. But most people have more one than the other. And so if you're hypermobile and you're incredibly flexible, that's not a bad thing. That's not a good thing, because it's actually going to keep you from building the stability around the joint that you want to have in order to be healthy. So this really requires an assessment to know what you should be doing. But I just want you guys to think about the fact that stretching is not a panacea for everything, and that there are intricacies here that we need to look at. And sometimes you don't need to be stretching, you need to be strengthening. And this isn't like, probably 95% of people need to do some level of stretching. So I don't want to hear like 9 out of 10 of you come back to me and say, oh, I stopped stretching because you told me I needed to do that. No, most of you still should be doing some amount of stretching, but not nearly the amount that you think that you do. And we want to look at prioritizing strength and stability, especially as we get older.
That's so true, because for me, I can relate to this, because there was a certain point in my life when all I did was yoga. Like I thought it was the answer to everything, but then it is good. I still do practice yoga, but then I also realized that I also have to do a lot of cardio on top of that, like mix it in between and moving through different planes of motion. And it's not just yoga, it has to be a good combination of different movements as well. All right. And we are going to move to our last question of the week. This is for those who can't find the right pillow. And sometimes for our patients who come in the morning, they said, oh, I slept in the wrong side of the bed, or I have a wrong pillow for the night, and now my neck is hurting so bad. So is it really the pillow to begin with, or how do we choose the right pillow?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it is the pillow. I mean, when we spent a couple of years traveling around the world, I mean, I would know the quality of sleep I was going to get based on the pillow. Some of these pillows were like nothing more than 2 sheets of paper put together and a pillowcase put over them. So they were absolutely miserable. But a lot of the times it is not the pillow. So I get this question a lot with patients coming in, and they're saying, my pillow is, I think it's my pillow that's causing my neck pain. And I'm like, all right, well, how long have you been using that pillow? And they're like, oh, I've had this pillow for like 10 years. And I'm like, when did your neck pain start? They're like, oh, like a week ago. And I'm like, well, it's probably not the pillow. If you've been using the same pillow for the last 5 or 10 years and now your neck pain just started, it's probably not your pillow. So there's definitely something more going on with that. Now, my view on the pillow is a lot different than the majority of people out there. A lot of people want you to get like this really expensive, specially contoured pillow. For me, I just want someone to get a pillow that, number one, is going to be comfortable for them, and number two, is going to put their head in the right position. So it doesn't matter. I don't care how much you spend on the pillow or what the material is made of, as long as it keeps you in the right position. Now, I'm going to throw something out there that's quite controversial, and it might require another live to go over this, but I'm not a big fan of sleeping on your back. So a lot of people, they think that the best position to sleep in is laying on their back face up. I actually don't like that position very much. Number one, you don't get much proprioception. You don't get much nerve system activation in that position. Number two, your mouth tends to open up when you're in that supine or laying on your back position, and you become a mouth breather while you're sleeping, which is really detrimental for your health. Plus, you're not putting any pressure on your abdomen or your chest. So you're not actually strengthening your diaphragm while you're breathing the same way that if you were on your side or potentially even on your stomach. So a lot of people will say your stomach is the worst position to sleep in. And when people know that I'm a chiropractor and I say that I actually prefer people sleeping on their stomach than their back, they're like, wow, you must be the worst chiropractor in the history of the profession if you're recommending you sleep on the stomach. But actually, there's a lot of neurological and respiratory reasons why I do actually like stomach sleeping for certain people. But I really prefer a side sleeping position. And so as long as you have a pillow that's keeping your head in this neutral plane, you don't want it hanging down this way or being pushed up this way. As long as your pillow is keeping you in a neutral position, you don't really have to spend that much on a pillow. I mean, my pillow I bought for 25 bucks. And, according to all of my sleep data and getting adjusted and, my structural health, I'm in great shape. So I can save you a lot of money on pillows and mattresses. I have great recommendations for those that can save you a ton of money. The mattress that we use, I know we're talking about pillows, but the mattress that we use is probably anywhere from a quarter to an eighth of the price of a lot of the mattresses out there. And it provides incredible support. So if anybody has any questions about that, just reach out to us and I'd be happy to share the link with you. It's not an affiliate link. I don't get any money from it or anything like that, but I'm happy to support you guys as listeners of the show and help save you some money in there. And then when you need your chiropractic care, you have the money to spend and invest in it with us. If you see there, we have a special furry visitor with us today. Luna's in the office. She's being very well behaved, but she's starting to get a little impatient. So we should probably close up here. But I hope that you guys got a lot from the show today. And if you have any questions, feel free to give us a shout out or post any questions that you have below. Anything else, Jen?
That's all. Again, if you have any questions that you want us to discuss for the next live, we do this every Monday. So just send over your questions and Dr. Max will answer them for you.
If I can, or I'll do the research to make sure I have good answers for you guys if you let me know ahead of time. All right, guys, take care. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.